Hey everyone, Goldie here. Today I'm coming on to talk about Books of Shadows and why I decided not to do a Book of Shadows. Now, when I was first starting my practice, I loved the idea of having a Book of Shadows, especially all those like lovely leather-bound, thick books with like handmade paper that you can still see the seeds in and the plants that were made out of, the paper was made out of. And I had started a few um, uh, Book of Shadows or grimoires, which I don't call it that because I can't pronounce it. So I just call it Book of Shadows, and or spell book or Book of Rituals or whatever you want to call it. And pretty much where you're just chronicling uh, what you do in ritual, what your different things you're exploring, whether it's you're writing down your sigils, your rituals, what you use exactly for them, what you say exactly. And so I had tried to do that for a while. I have this not huge, but nice little journal that's, carved leather and stuff. And I ended up just using it as a journal um, to just kind of uh, just write about like my spirituality and topics I was interested in. But I realized that I don't have the organization or the personality to have a book of shadows as you usually like see them as, where you can like flip to a page and there it's a there's like almost like a table of contents, and you can find exactly what you're looking for, and it's just like I really wanted this beautiful um you know urban laid magical book, and once I also realized that I wasn't organized enough to do something like that, I also realized that my practice isn't conducive to having a book of shadows or writing down every single thing I say or use, because every single time I do a spell or a ritual, it's completely different. I use different herbs. I use what's around me. I say different words because each time the meaning is different, and so it really didn't make any sense to me once I really sat down and thought about it, um, to do Book of Shadows. I'm gonna try and stabilize this. Um, yeah, so it since every time that I do ritual or spell that's different, um, it didn't make sense for me to put the time and effort into making a Book of Shadows or anything like that. Um, and ever since I've done that, I've been very happy with that choice. It almost like gave me a little bit of anxiety or like dread to like a book report you don't want to do or something. It's like, oh, I have to write down this, and like trying to remember exactly what it was. And I'm a very by the fly kind of person when it comes to my spellcraft or ritual. And so I mean, I'll get things ready, but it's like so I have like an arsenal of things, of magical items and herbs and statues and dolls and crystals, and they're not just for like this is for this and this is for that, and like I don't ever mix them or anything. I go with whatever feels like it needs to be a part of it. So it's like I look at all my stuff, and so I have a table in front of me, so I'm looking at all my stuff, and I pick out what calls to me. And sometimes, I pick out stuff that I end up not using. Like when we had the full moon the other night, I had a bunch of different crystals that I had planned on using, and some different candle holders. A lot of my stuff is still in storage. So just like a few odds and ends here here and there. And I didn't end up using hardly any of it. I think, where did I end up using? I don't remember now. You see, and that's also why I shouldn't do a Book of Shadows, because I can never remember, like, from the moment I've done ritual, because it's so at the moment and spontaneous and intuitive, that it's like I just do it and then it's like gone from memory. So I don't have problems with memory. It's just like I go with the flow with it, and it just comes out. And I think that's why I've ever since I've been doing my practice wholeheartedly and intuitively, I've never had anything not work. Everything I've done since I started doing everything intuitively has come true, and or has come to pass. It may take time. It may seem like it's not happening, but eventually it does. And that's one thing you have to. There's like a net. You have to realize with spells, it's not going to happen on your time schedule. It's like it may take weeks or months, or I'm sure even sometimes years. I've never experienced that. I mean, I've done spells continuously and like kept up with them to where they work for years, and rituals to like back all that up and make sure that my deities and offerings and everything are being done, so that way I have that arsenal, especially with like protection magic. That's something I continue to do all the time. But so yeah, anyway, back on subject. But yeah, so if you like doing a Book of Shadows and you have that very organized mind for that, all the power to you. That's awesome. I love seeing other people's Books of Shadows. I think they're beautiful. And I think it's amazing that they're chronicling their journey in magic and their path, whether it's paganism or witchcraft or a mix of both or something completely their own, and also I know that, there's been like conversation among witches of like, wouldn't it be amazing to find like an old world book of witchcraft, and like spells and rituals and stuff. It's like, yeah, that'd be amazing for the history part of it, and like this is just my perspective of it, but it would be amazing for the history aspect. But as far as using anything from it, I feel like it probably wouldn't work for me, because the time was so different. People's mindsets were ways of thinking were completely different, that it probably wouldn't resonate with me nowadays, as a modern woman in my life or whatever. And that's also, just speaking of, putting that also into reading other people's spell books, the ones that you can buy at the bookstore. Those are great for inspiration and for getting an idea of what a spell looks like, what a ritual looks like. But a lot of those things, in my experience, don't resonate with me. It's like they won't work for me because it's not it's not how I do magic. It's not how I do my practice. My practice comes totally internally, and a lot of times it's just me. I've been almost either pretty close to a year, half a year since we've been, we bought a house and packing and everything's been put up for almost a year. And so I haven't had an altar like out working or, had many of my magical items or anything like that, and it's like at first it really bothered me because I loved having my big, beautiful altar, and I would change it up and add things to it. And it was a very, very big part of my identity, my spiritual identity to myself. But once I put that away, I realized that, I didn't need that necessarily, and even though I still love it, I still don't have an altar up. We've been in our house for like 3 or 4 months, maybe a little bit longer, I forget. And I still haven't unpacked one, I mean, unpacked enough stuff to have one. If I had just started getting my stuff out of storage and, kind of reorganizing and rediscovering also what I have, because there's some things that have been packed away. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That's so cool, and like, I can't wait to use this. And anyway, so I'm sorry if the video is really shaky. I don't have a tripod, so I'm just holding it with my hand, trying to brace it with my knee so it doesn't give you motion sickness. But yeah, so if you don't feel like a Book of Shadows is for you, you don't have to have one. If you don't feel like writing a Book of Shadows is for you, you can film it. It's like you do video diaries. You film yourself while you're doing your practice, or your rituals and spell work, if you want to. If you still want to chronicle what you're doing, I think that might even be better, just because you can actually get a playback, instead of trying to remember everything that you did and said and what you did with your hands and whatever, and just all the aspects of it, all the steps. Then you can actually go back and rewatch it, and then you can write it down if you want to, or I might actually do that. I haven't done it before, but maybe I'll step out of that, so that way I can write that kind of stuff down. But as of now, I don't have any desire really to do that, but that makes more sense for me, at least. I'm like, I'll try something new. It's always good to evolve your practice. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I really have to say about grimoires and Books of Shadows. So I would love to see other people's. I love looking at the videos, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.